Welcome to Asian Banking and Finance TV. We're very pleased today to have with us William Ho. He is the Senior Consultant with FUJITSU, and we're going to be talking about some of the issues that banks are facing in adopting new technology, risks and also returns of being at the forefront of where technology is enabling banks to move with new services. So William, welcome.
Thank you.
My first question is, banks are now adopting new technologies, but they're sometimes a bit afraid to adopt new technologies, even if it means that they can come up with new services that they can offer people and new ways of doing business. Could you explain to us a little bit some of the new services and things that banks can do properly with customers if they adopt the new technologies?
Okay, before I go into the technology and the services, let me just introduce the concept. The concept about dynamic infrastructure, which we leverage on emerging technologies, like for example, virtualization, business intelligence, analytics. All this will help the bank to create new services and innovate the product and services. Like for example, virtualization, they can use the technologies to help them to create new product and test the product before they go to market. At the same time, for example, the other technology like business intelligence, because of the common process and share information base from a dynamic infrastructure, they actually can collect information and analyze the information and understand what the customer require and what the market demand, so that they create more product and services to meet the demands.
How can the banking sector build up their infrastructure resilience?
That's a good question. Okay. Dynamic infrastructure with the flexibility, elasticity, and also the able to adapt to new environment, changing market will be a good, I would say, a good strategy for resiliency. Dynamic infrastructure will be much more easier when looking at the business continuity, disaster recovery. For example, it's much more easier to prepare bank for DR testing or BC testing with dynamic infrastructure because of flexibility, because of adaptability, and it's much more easier for them to do resource-based planning or scenario-based planning testing. As compared to typical infrastructure, it's much challenging because it's not flexible enough to do that.
Now, security and risk, of course, remain a top concern for banks. How can they best deal with this in a dynamic infrastructure environment?
The typical data protection and security strategy that we use today may not be sufficient. For example, we are looking at the backup, snapshot at a data point, the data repository point, which we need to look beyond that. I would recommend to use the data security lifecycle, which comprises a number of stages. These are stages that include creation of data. You need to understand what are the rights, how to classify the data. The second phase, you look at when you store the data, what are the rights management, how you map this right into the access control, what are the people can authorize to access this data. And the next step, you look at how to use the data. When you use the data, what are the rights management, what are the access control, security control, and logical control. Okay. The next, you look at share the data. When you share the data, what are the access rights, what are the active monitoring, what the encryption. The next step, we look at how to use the share, then we look at the archive of the data. When you need to archive, there's a lot of consideration. For example, the encryption, the asset management, the availability of the data. The last stage, whereby we look at the data, is to dispose the data. This is definitely, we need to look at how to completely, securely delete the data from the depository. And we look at this data security lifecycle will help us to understand the flow of the data, and at each phase, what are the security control and data protection technology to invest for these different phases.
In a dynamic infrastructure environment, how can banks best meet the compliance and reporting requirements they're required to meet?
For this regulatory requirement, it's a continuous process. And with that, the fundamental and the principle will stay the same as compared to typical environment or infrastructure. You need to have a good foundation of governance, risk, and compliance structure. You need to regularly do your review, your compliance review, your audit, and also look at how to improve the security control. But one thing about dynamic infrastructure, the additional benefits, because of the common share of processes, and the common share of information. It helps to open up or integrate new tool, like for example, this is a security compliant tool that help you to look at information, translate this information into intelligent data for your management to take action, timely action and reliable action.
William Ho, thank you very much. From all of us here at Asian Banking and Finance TV, see you next time. Thanks for watching.